Hello, I'm Mark Adams. I'm going to demonstrate today how to do purchase orders with the Wave system. First of all, there are several different ways to do purchasing. One would be for purchasing items that you continue to reorder. You can use suggested order for that. You can even use manual order to just key in quantities and items that you want to purchase. But the biggest strength of Wave is the ability to special order items directly from point of sale into purchasing. I'm going to demonstrate that today. So as I'm in the middle of a purchase or an order, a point of sale order to a customer, I'm going to put in my salesperson number, select a customer from the grid, and builders. Right? Then I put in several different ways to do it. One is you can have a miscellaneous item for special orders. For example, Windows, I could type in MISC dash and it'll show me all the different miscellaneous items I have. There's a miscellaneous Windows, so that all I have to do is type in the description, say a 4-foot by 8-foot bay window. Give it the retail price if I know it. If I don't, I can put in the cost and then it will calculate the retail based on the margin I established for this item. Otherwise, I put in the retail I want it, and I can also key in the cost. And then that item's put on the ticket. Now this makes it really easy for being able to put and sell and quote on items that you don't necessarily stock. I can also add any specifications that I want to that it's got to be brick, mold, white primed, any information I need. And puts that on the ticket. So it makes an easy way to enter an item on the ticket that you don't necessarily stock. However, the shortcoming is that this information is like a scratch pad. It doesn't go any further than this. If I assign a vendor to that item, as an example, the miscellaneous windows, I assign a vendor, then this item can pass through to purchasing for this vendor. But again, it doesn't really give it enough information necessarily for that to be a purchase order. What I would suggest, let's go ahead and save that order. And then we can start a new one. Get a different filter. What I would suggest at this point is to be able to key in an item on the fly so that I actually have the information recorded, the vendor's item number, description, because there's really only 6 pieces of information that you need to be able to create an item. So I'm in the middle of this and I pick out a window that I want. I can actually key in an item and create it faster than what we just went through. So from the add item wizard, I can set up a new item. It's a Anderson Windows 12 42A. This is a 4-foot by 8-foot wide vinyl bay window. I could set up an alpha code, look it up alphabetically. If I don't know the number, I might just say bay window. Department, put that in Windows. Wow. Alright, I can establish a margin for this item. Let's say it's based on the department that I've set up for that item. I give it a cost. I know it's $7.99. It'll suggest the retail price. Now the key here is the stock type. And most items you set up are stock that you want to track your quantities on. But in this case, this is going to be a temp item. And what a temp item is it's created and is removed from the system once the item is finished. So you create the temp item, you put it on an order, and it reserves a quantity. When the item is ordered from the vendor through a purchase order, the quantity on order is created. So I have one reserved, one on order. When the order comes in, I receive it. Now the on order goes to 0 and I have a reserve. By invoicing that order, then the reserve goes to 0. At the end of the month, every item that is set up as a temp item, when all of the quantities on order, on hand, and reserved go to 0, that item is removed from the system. Now, I say removed, but it can actually be recalled. So if at some point in the future, say that builder decides he wants that same window for another installation, all you have to do is come to the item maintenance screen, call up that item, and unhide that item from the system, and it will be available for another purchase order. So there are several ways to go through purchasing. Let's finish this item. All right, I'm going to assign it to a vendor. All right, and then I can put their item number if it's different than the one I just put in there. And then I finish. If I wanted to, I could print a sticker for the item, either a bin label or price sticker, but in this case there's no reason to do that. So that's all there is to it for adding an item. Now I can go back to that order and key in the item that I just set up. So that was AW12. I don't even remember the rest of it. There. Oh. Let's refresh the data. So AW12. There it is, the day window. Again, I add whatever specifications I want to that. Say it's a 4-foot by 8-foot. It's wide. It's going to be grid inside glass. It's a depth. Whatever information you want to put, whatever you want to send, not only for this customer, so that the order that you place has the specifics, but for the vendor. So I can print this order, I can email the order, but this is just an order to my customer. So at this point, I save it. I can change the name of the order. Say it's there just so it comes up so that you can acknowledge it. All right, and then once it's on an order, I can go through to purchasing and create an order from a point of sale order. This will read through all open point of sale orders and give me the ability to create purchase orders from it. So here's the order that I just entered. This will be chronological, so we can go through and create them. In this case, I double click on this order, and since there's only one item on it, it created that item for this vendor. If there were multiple items on it that needed to be purchased, it would create a separate tab for each vendor. For example, if I create the windows to one vendor, I create the doors to another vendor, it can create as many orders as are required for the order that I created from the customer. So there's the item that I just set. If I click on the note, you can see there's the details. So you don't have to worry about transposing information or any typos. And once that's done, I can go ahead and process it, or I can just save it if I need to get more information about it. But once it's processed, I can change the purchase order number. By default, it's set by the date, but I can add to that and say Billy's a window. So the same information passes through. I can even use the order number, so it tracks it back to what the order was in point of sale. You have complete flexibility on how you use purchase orders. But once I process it, it creates the purchase order. At this point, I can email it, I can print it, I can fax it, whatever you want to do, that item is now ordered. So if I go in and look up that item, let's put in that, what was it, AW12, there it is. And if I look at my stocking information, it says I have on order and reserved of 1. Okay, so let's carry that through. So I went ahead and created my purchase order. When that item comes in, I go to inventory transaction entry and I'm going to receive a purchase order. So I look through my purchase orders, there's that pay window. And it comes in, I can change anything on here. Let's say that the cost was, I only paid $7.85. I can reprice it. I know how I've already set that price. Now one other thing is there's an audit trail whenever this grid is filled with receiving. If it was imported from one of your vendors with a whole lot of items on it, it will fill this grid. It's nothing more than a spreadsheet of the information that came in. And then this report is an audit trail of that. So it tells you everything. The expected cost was $7.99. It was actually only $7.85. So that's 1.5%, 1.75% less than we expected. Another thing I could do at this point, if I want to add the delivery charge to that, I add that in, and then it's added to my cost. If there were 300 items on here, it would be divided evenly by the value of this item to that total purchase order. So it's suggesting that my price be $11.76. I'm going to still keep that at $1,200. So once I'm done, oh, the other thing is the PO update audit report at this point is also a voucher for your receiving. So if you print this out or if you email it to the accounting department, then they can match that up with the invoice when it comes in, and that'll signify that that invoice is ready to be paid. So when I'm done with this, I submit it. Okay, close that purchase order. and now it's added that quantity to the item file. So if I go back and look that item up, my quantity on hand went up to 1 and my quantity on order went down. So let's go back to that order. I'm going to look up orders. There it is. I still don't have a credit problem. Right? And that's exactly what I need. I guess I could add freight to this if I wanted to. Delivery charge. I could add more items to it, in fact. And then when I'm done, I'm going to convert that order to an invoice. I'm going to go ahead and select all. I mean, I could pick which items are going to be invoiced and which ones are not. I have not billed any quantity yet, so I'm going to invoice that one. And then I'm closing the order when it's done. And that creates an invoice to the customer. That, again, I could add more to it. I can make whatever changes. I could put comments on it. But when I'm ready, I'm just going to go ahead and complete that invoice. I'm going to leave it. As you can see, it added the tax. I'm going to leave it a charge. That transaction is complete. Empty invoice. Now you don't have to confirm a print every time. You can set your system so that it just automatically prints. Also, this, since I don't have a printer, I set everything to go to a PDF, so it's going to create an image rather than send it to a printer. But you can see it created the invoice to the customer. And that is already on that customer's file. And if I go to that item, the on hand went to 0, the reserved went to 0. So when I go through the process at month end, I'm going to just set the one item. Now this process takes a little while. I go back, and that item is now hidden. So if I go to another invoice for that, and I type in AW12, oh, I didn't refresh it, sorry. The database refreshes itself every few minutes, and if you need your transaction to be up to date, then you'll want to refresh it. Like we just ran month-end processing and then immediately went into point of sale. Normally there'd be a time delay between those, so you see that item doesn't come up anymore. It's like that item doesn't exist. So that's how you take an item from special order from the customer all the way through purchasing. I showed you originally how to do the invoice with the miscellaneous item. And miscellaneous items can be used for things like, let's say, fasteners, where I can say, I'm going to set up miscellaneous fasteners as 2 item MF, and I hit enter, and it automatically calls up the miscellaneous fastener item.